Hey kids, back at it again with another serious video. I'm just kidding, it's not gonna be that serious. But I do wanna talk. So if you consume content of any form, whether you're an avid YouTube watcher, a TikTok scroller, an older gentleman watching the Powerball in the news, chances are you've probably heard about a new diabetes medication that is literally sweeping the nation, and it is called Ozempic. By definition, Ozempic is an anti-diabetic medication used for the treatment of type 2 diabetes and an anti-obesity medication used for long-term weight management. The active ingredient is something called semaglutide. Some people say semaglutide, but in my opinion, they put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. And there are several brands that make their own version of the drug, and they all contain that important ingredient, semaglutide. So there's Ozempic, which seems to be the most popular. There is Wegovy. There's one called Rybelsus, I think. And then there's also this other one taking over called Mounjaro, which has something else. It has some other stuff, so it's a little different but similar. So just some quick background information. Skip ahead if you want. I totally understand. There are a heck ton of celebrities who are rumored, keyword rumored, to be on this drug currently. Kim Kardashian, Adele, Mindy Kaling, Rebel Wilson, Elon Musk, although he may have admitted to taking it. I can't remember. Basically any celebrity that you have seen suddenly become skinny within the last year or two, the rumors are that they are taking this drug. I think it's kind of weird to like publicly state that somebody is on a drug even if you say that you're not sure, because it definitely sways public opinion and you can't possibly know for sure who's taking it. So that's a little weird, but here we are. It's actually insane. I've never seen anything like this drug in my lifetime personally. You know, it used to be my entire life walking through the checkout lane at a grocery store, reading People magazine covers. It was always about celebrity breakups and their love lives and scandals, etc. And now it's all about whether or not certain celebrities are taking Ozempic. Many people label this drug as an absolute miracle, a life-saving drug, both for people with diabetes and those without who just, struggle with obesity. It was created for diabetics, but has now evolved to where everybody and their almond mom who wants to lose 3 pounds are taking it. It is so popular, in fact, and sweeping the nation so sweepily that there is now a shortage of the medication, meaning the diabetic patients for whom it was originally created are struggling to get it because labs are running out of it, I guess. They can't keep up with the demand. And while the intro of this video may come across as though I'm judging people who are taking it or that I'm like opposed to this drug, I'm not at all. As you probably have noticed by the title, I took it too for 17 weeks-ish. It was like November 28th of last year to March 21st of this year, I think. I could be slightly off with the dates, but I think March 21st was my last injection. And now that it's been a couple months and I've been off the drug, I feel very strongly that I want to talk to you guys about this. I debated it heavily, but I feel like this could be helpful to some people because, have you ever been in like a super toxic relationship, whether it was a friendship, a romantic relationship, or you had like a super toxic family member and you couldn't see how toxic and dysfunctional the relationship was until you created distance? Like you had to get away from that person for more than a few weeks to realize, oh my gosh, he was a literal abusive lunatic, That is how I feel about Ozempic, my personal experience. And I feel like we should chat about it today after a quick word from today's sponsor. Have you ever thought about like what your signature style is? I'm sure you have. Everybody has their style, Maybe you're emo, maybe you're goth, maybe you look like you're straight out of a Pinterest board, maybe you're 90s grunge, maybe you're more of like lumberjack meets David Bowie. We all have a signature style, but do you have a signature scent? Something we don't think about very often, right? We all need our signature scent. We all want to have that scent that when our friends and loved ones smell when they're not around us, they say, hey, that smells just like my Aunt Chrysanthemum. Hey, is Uncle Billy nearby? I smell Cousin Trish. Hide the live, laugh, love signs. You know what I mean? I really want you all to have your signature scent, and right now it's easier than ever with today's sponsor, Scentbird.
Freaky
fucking gosh, this smells good. So Scentbird is actually a fragrance subscription service. So you get a new fragrance in the mail every month. And their mission is to empower all of you to express yourselves through scent. You get to choose a new designer fragrance every month for just $17. They have perfumes, colognes, unisex options, indie brands, designer brands, literally everything you want. But let me just tell you what I got this month. As usual, it's impossible to choose my favorite. I think this is my favorite. This is by Floral Street and it is called Sunflower Pop. Friends, if you want to smell like the summeriest summer girl or boy, this is going to be your new best friend. It's a blend of fresh mandarin, bursts of sustainably sourced calaberry and bergamot, and a pop of Bellini Accord. Also got Not Your Girl by Deck of Scarlet. Deck of Scarlet perfumes are always 10 out of 10. This is a little bit more sophisticated, more sensual. Rum, jasmine, cardamom, patchouli, delicious. And we also got Le Rêve by Sicily. This one smells expensive. The new packaging is so stellar. You just give it one little turn to spray, open it right up to remove or replace the vial, and they look so beautiful in your purse. You get a full 30-day supply, so you can really try out a scent before committing to, a $500 full-size bottle. So if you are interested in finding your signature scent in the easiest way possible and you want to try Scentbird, you can use my code JamieFrench2 at Scentbird.com, which will save you 55% off your first month at Scentbird. Faites attention! It's a new code, Jamie French 2. Be sure to spell my first name right so you can make sure you get your 55% off at Scentbird.com. Thank you so much to Scentbird for continuously supporting my channel, sponsoring a portion of today's video. And now back to the show. Hey kids, we're back. I'm so tempted to start everything off with my long, boring, drawn-out backstory of disordered eating and dieting and trauma and everything that led me to where I am today, but perhaps another time. I'm more concerned right now about warning you with some of the physical and mental side effects of this drug, and I don't want to keep you here for 6 hours. So as I said, I started Ozempic, or a generic form of Ozempic, in November of last year because, surprise, surprise, I wanted to lose body fat. I know that there is an entire community of people on TikTok who will label me as fat phobic for that, for wanting to lose body fat, and you go right ahead and call me that. You make the rules.
Actively not wanting to be fat is indeed fat phobic.
Very quick history lesson of why I wanted to try this drug. Like most overweight people, I have always struggled to lose body fat. Calorie deficits literally don't work for me, at least not long term. Sometimes they briefly work, but then they stop. I work out often. My patrons who see my vlogs, or even if you've just been around long enough to remember when I used to vlog on this channel, you guys know I work out. Nothing makes a measurable difference, yada, yada, yada. Well, this seemed like a very promising solution, but yet I was absolutely opposed to trying it just because I've done this so many times throughout the last 33 years where some miracle comes along and I'm visibly seeing people that I know lose weight and have success with it. And I get my hopes up and I'm like, hey, that's gonna work for me. And of course it doesn't. So I'm kind of at the age now where I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. But this one got me. But I was also opposed because of hearing about the side effects. Number one, that you are not supposed to take it if you have a history of thyroid cancer, which I do, but I believe it's a different type. So that one is papillary and mine was medullary, or maybe it's vice versa. Papillary. I had a papillary carcinoma. Yeah, so this drug could potentially cause a medullary thyroid tumor. That freaked me out. But my doctor was ultimately the one who kind of, not convinced me, but made me relax about it a little bit. She felt like because I also have a condition called PCOS, which causes blood sugar and insulin problems and can eventually lead to diabetes, she felt like semaglutide could help me. She also has, at the time, it was only 20 other patients on it. Who knows how many of her patients are taking it now. All of her patients were shedding body fat like crazy and doing great and finding success with no side effects. And she really seemed to think it would be fine. And she has, firsthand seen the emotional struggle that I go through trying to get my weight off. So she was optimistic. I also got some, I would say, light or minimal pressure from family members, not anything super toxic, but it was more same thing. They see me struggling day in and day out. And it was kind of hey, maybe this would help you. So I gave in. My doctor found a compounding pharmacy that made their own version of the drug. They basically took the active ingredient semaglutide, added B12, which also helps you lose weight, helps your mood, etc. I was already getting shots of B12, so I'm like, okay, sure, let's try it. Side note, I do not believe per se that my generic version of the drug is the reason that it didn't work for me, because like I said, all of my doctor's other patients are doing great, and it all came from this compounding pharmacy. Also, I found several doctors on social media who also promoted the generic form. The active ingredient is the important thing of semaglutide. So I got my first injection, and immediately I got some very serious trigger warning side effects in the form of diarrhea. Now, I have suffered from a condition called lymphocytic colitis for like 12 years, I would say. Maybe longer, I don't even know at this point. So I am no stranger to that, but my colitis had actually been in remission since like late 2020-ish, around the time where I healed my gallbladder. The colitis also went into remission around that time. So to be in remission with colitis for almost 3 years, only to be hit with a literal poop storm the day after starting this drug, I was pretty confident that I knew it was the drug causing it. And may I just say, if any of you have colitis or Crohn's or anything like that, you know the absolute agony, meaning pain, that it physically causes in your intestines. Well, buyer beware, because that pain has nothing on Ozempic. I mean, I spent years, every time I went to the bathroom when like colitis was at my worst, just hunched over in agony, moaning in pain, like salivating, always about to throw up from pain. I did not ever imagine it could get worse than that, and on Ozempic it was worse. But worse than that even, not only was the pain much worse, like I said, which I didn't think was even possible, but I was also suddenly unable to always control my self, meaning on more than one occasion, I pooped my literal pants. It's funny, but it's not funny, you know what I mean? In my shorts. Mind you all, friends, okay, this was the bare minimum dose. This is like the tiny little dose that you start off with before you work up to the therapeutic dose. So I believe I was on 0.25 at this time. And this was the reaction I had to the smallest dose possible. I keep thinking about Amberlynn Reed. She gets ripped apart on social media. I mean, 24 hours a day, somebody's making a video about her. I happened to catch some of her content when she was on Ozempic, and it was giving her stomach problems and gallbladder problems, and people didn't believe her and were like, oh, you're just using that as an excuse to go off of it. I believe her. It was no joke. Now, my doctor was closely monitoring me. She wasn't exactly sure. There's no real way to be sure that it was the Ozempic. I mean, it seemed like it was, but you never know. And not one of her other patients were having this side effect, so she was like, I don't know why it would be causing you so many issues. And I do have a history with colitis, like I said, so she thought there was a chance it could be a coincidence. And I had the same thoughts. Like, I thought it was the drug, but then I was like, well, maybe it's not. I don't know, because I was really, really enjoying the other good side effects, if you will, of the drug. First and foremost, the reduction in my appetite. Man, I miss that part so much. I'm sorry if that's triggering to you. Hopefully the disclaimer at the beginning filtered anybody out that can't hear things like that, but I have been a pretty consistent 1700 to 1800 calorie queen for a good while now, but it's still always a mental struggle. Like, if I really let myself do whatever I wanted, I would probably eat like 2,500 calories a day. I'm hungry, okay? Or sometimes I'm not hungry enough. Like, sometimes even meeting you know, 1,800 or whatever, 1,700 is a struggle, because some days, we all have those days where we just don't feel like it. So either way, it was a mental struggle, but Ozempic gave me this quiet mind where I literally never thought about my calorie intake. Again, I want to stress, I don't have the best and most balanced habits when it comes to food, so I don't want you to take any of my advice. But again, what I liked was the quiet. I felt very comfortable at like 1,500 calories. I always track everything in my little Noom app, like, just because I like to know. It's just a habit that I formed. But I didn't have that food anxiety that I've had most of my life, where it's like, did I eat enough? Did I eat too much? Should I eat in 2 hours? Should I not? Oops, my stomach growled. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't get ahead of my hunger. You know what I mean? Like, all of that was gone. My mind was quiet. It was incredible. And it happened pretty quickly because of the appetite suppressing nature of the drug. So at this point, I was still staying positive. I was also sleeping really good. Like literally within the first dose, I remember laying down for bed that night and waking up in the exact same position, which is probably because it helps stabilize your blood sugar. Who knows? But the good parts were good enough for me to deal with the dysentery. So now by this point, I am down the Ozempic rabbit hole on TikTok, and I'm watching all of these women's fat cells just melt away, melting off. They're sleeping better too. I saw a lot of girls say like, oh, I sleep so much better. Some of them had side effects too, but I kept hearing this recurring thing, which is the side effects will go away as your body adapts to the drug. Well, guys, spoiler alert, mine didn't. I stayed on that dose for 5 weeks. The plan was to stay on that dose for 4, but we gave it an extra week because I was afraid to move up in dose because of the horrible side effects. So 5 weeks on 0.25, and then when it was time to bump up to 0.5, we started doing the injection in my arm instead of my abdomen because I heard a lot of people on social media say that the side effects were much more tolerable in the arm. And actually that worked for like 2 weeks. At least I think it did. It's kind of hard in hindsight now because I know I was guzzling Pepto-Bismol and taking Imodium like they were candy, but at least it seemed like it was making a difference. So then my doctor asked how I would feel about switching to a more concentrated formula, meaning exact same drug, exact same formula, just a little bit more concentrated. In my mind, that means less water, but I don't actually know because I'm not a scientist. The advantage of that would be you could inject the same dose with a smaller amount of fluid instead of like injecting a vial this big. And it is more cost effective because your vial lasts longer, etc., etc. And I said, sure. And I said, sure.
I said, sure.
And as soon as we switched to the more concentrated formula, mind you, we kept the same dose equivalent. So whatever the equivalent of 0.5 milligrams was in this concentrated formula, that's what we did. And as soon as I switched to the concentrated formula, the diarrhea came back full force with a vengeance, as well as a new symptom, gallbladder pain. If you've been around for a while, you know my heinous experience with gallbladder disease. You know how big the struggle was to heal my gallbladder. This was, apart from the thyroid cancer, this was actually like my biggest concern. There were a few reports of pancreatitis and gallbladder issues when they did the clinical trials for this drug. And with my history, I was very, very afraid of this. But again, I just kept holding out hope that my body would adjust. And my doctor said that the drug delays gastric emptying. So food stays in your stomach longer than it normally would, and so that could cause your gallbladder to squeeze more often than normal. And I was like, okay, yeah, then it just needs to adjust to the new normal. I started my milk thistle again, bumped up my selenium, my Dr. Berg gallbladder supplements, continued my healthy diet, continued my exercise. I'm like, it's fine, it'll pass, it's fine. I've dealt with this before. Now this is probably early January-ish, okay, so 6 weeks-ish in. And to add a beautiful layer of frosting to this poop cake, I had not lost in 6 weeks 1 single ounce. Even with the significant reduction in my appetite, the stabilization of my blood sugar, and the basically having dysentery, I would think the diarrhea alone would make somebody lose an ounce. But not me. But like I said, I've been down this road a million times. It's been a struggle my whole life. I was like, it's gonna work. I'm not on the therapeutic dose yet. All of these people in my family, yes, I have multiple people in my family who are on this drug, who are at like 20 pounds off by the 6-week mark. All these people on TikTok who had lost 20 and 30 pounds by the 6-week mark, they are all unicorns. And I knew it would be harder for me because of my thyroid problems, my PCOS, and my daddy issues. So still staying positive at this point. End of January, it was time to bump it up to 0.75. And in hindsight, I see now that that is when the anxiety started. The good sleep I was getting in the beginning instantly vanished like that night, and it was replaced by my normal insomnia, but 800 times worse. My Apple Watch, I wish I had it sitting here. It would tell me like, you got 3 hours of sleep last night. Are you alive? Are you okay? My heart rate would constantly spike throughout the night, and it was all anxiety. I would be dead asleep and just wake up gasping from impending doom. And again, this is hindsight. I didn't really attribute this to the drug. I've always had anxiety. I've always had depression. I've always struggled with sleep. And I was like, oh, it's just kind of coming back a lot worse for some reason. The injections were just part of my life at this point, and I had too many other things to worry about, you know? Paying my employees, getting my content out on time, write, shoot, edit, repeat, going to my meetings, being a wife, being an aunt, living my normal life. You know what I mean? I don't got time to investigate stuff. By this point, the stomach pain, like the gallbladder pain, was getting a little worse and a little more frequent. I was having that signature pain that I would know anywhere. A couple people were like, maybe it's not your gallbladder. Oh no. A mother knows, and I am my gallbladder's mother. It was starting to become after eating or drinking anything, sometimes even water, and I just kept trucking. I loved the reduction in appetite. I loved the, not thinking about eating at all. And I also loved that I was not gaining anything. Any of you who have PCOS, you know that if you live just like a normal balanced life and kind of eat healthy and balanced and kind of like what other people around you are eating, if you just live a normal life, you will gain by the day. So on Ozempic, when it came to food, only when it came to food, I felt like I could relax a little bit mentally. And that in my mind was counterbalancing like the crippling anxiety that it caused in every other aspect of life. Hindsight, man, it's better than 2020. Hindsight is 2010. I see it all so clearly now. So week after week passed, still no appetite, still no relief from the diarrhea, still no relief from the stomach pain, and still no weight loss. Zero. Goose egg. There were even some times where I would chat with my doctor's other patients, like if we were in the waiting room, or I think there was one time where like I came to get my injection as one girl was leaving, and they were always like, woohoo, down 30 pounds, week 12. And I'm over here like, just waiting on my first ounce. It's coming. I know it's coming. So it was finally time to do the therapeutic dose of 1 milligram. And at this point, the stomach pain was kind of getting unbearable. Like first it was at certain meals, then it was eating or drinking anything. At this point, it was upon waking. As soon as I would get up and move my body at all, I would have gallbladder pain, which is exactly what happened to me a few years ago, meaning something was inflaming and irritating it. So I made a separate doctor's appointment, like not related to the Ozempic at all. My gut said it was like real deep down, but I couldn't access those thoughts. My thoughts were up here because I was just distracted and blinded by the desire for weight loss. Again, I'm not a very balanced person. I don't want you to take my advice. So she ordered some tests at this appointment. I feel like we went over blood work. It's hard for me to remember every detail, but this was when she told me that I needed to cut out dairy. And she is not the first doctor to have told me this. I had testing done several years ago with a functional medicine doctor who literally tested my poop, and it came back that I had a reaction to every single component of dairy, like the whey, the casein, the lactose, and whatever the other one is. And I was like, all right, say no more. I should have listened before. I'm an adult now. I went dairy-free, full-blown dairy-free, still am. And I'm like, this is it. Okay, this was the magic bullet. This was the missing link. This is where the magic happens. And like I said, this was right at the time where I finally bumped up to the therapeutic dose of semaglutide, which is 1 milligram. And lo and behold, I finally lost my first 3 pounds. And isn't it funny that I attributed that to the drug and not the massive change to my diet, meaning cutting out dairy? Anything good that happened at all, I'm like, it's Ozempic. It's Ozempic, yeah. Anything bad that happened, I'm like, it's anything other than Ozempic. Yeah. So while simultaneously feeling very excited over the first 3 pounds I had lost in, 2 years, the pain in my stomach reached unbearable levels. I couldn't wear leggings. I had to walk around with my leggings like below my butt all the time. And my husband was always like, this happened to you 3 years ago. I was afraid to go to certain functions, meetings with my congregation, family events, Nick's concerts, etc. Literally because I was afraid of pooping my pants.
Stop pooping.
Could not sleep to save my life. It's actually kind of amazing to me that I maintained my upload schedule and made most of my sponsored deadlines over the last few months. The will to pay my employees just trumped everything. At the same time though, I'm a high functioning depressive person. I show up, I put a smile on my face. You can't really see the endless laps around the anxiety pool that I'm taking in my mind. So I just kept trucking, but then the camel's back finally broke. Yeah, there was a straw and it broke it. I ate some turkey jerky at the studio. It was like a late night upload day where I just was hungry and grabbed whatever was there. And I had a full-blown gallbladder attack. Like, I'm talking the kind I used to have 3 years ago when I was at my sickest before I healed my gallbladder. But the funniest part of this story is that that straw actually didn't break my back. I wasn't the camel. It broke my doctor's. I went in for my injection and she kind of looked at me and was like, "Are you okay? How are you feeling?" I said, "Bad." And I see now, again, in hindsight, that probably the last like 5 times I saw her when I went in for my injection, I was like, just so forlorn and down and lethargic and unenergetic, basically dying. But I'm like, I still need my injection. Normally we would do the injections in this one sort of common area of her office. And at this time she took me back into her exam room where like none of the other staff was. And she was like, "Hey, you don't feel good. Your anxiety is really high. You're not sleeping. You're having stomach issues and you're not losing weight. Let's try this. Let's take a break from the semaglutide for at least a few weeks. And if your symptoms resolve, then we will know for sure that it was the drug and it wasn't just a coincidence." And I was so embarrassed, but I had no control and I just bawled in her office because it was the moment I had to admit what I knew all along, which is that this drug, while it seems to work for every other person on the planet, it didn't work for me. And of course I know that that's not the case. That's like dramatic thinking, but that's how it felt, you know, when you're going through something. It wasn't just that it wasn't working for me, it was physically and mentally harming me. So I even asked her, I was like, wait, it just started to work. I think I was down even like 4 pounds at that point. Ooh, and 17 weeks. And her response was, "I think it's entirely possible that that 4-pound loss is probably something that you are doing and it probably would have occurred anyway." You know, the cutting out the dairy. I feel like if you cut out dairy, it automatically kind of changes you a little bit. Like if you have a food allergy, you retain a little bit of water, you can have some weight loss resistance, you have a little bit more inflammation. So I think it was probably that. I don't know. Looking back, I think maybe it was both. I still think the drug could have been helping me a little bit. But obviously the bad outweighed the good, you know? So I was like, all right, fine. I agreed. I called Nick on the way home and I was still so confident that I would be able to start taking the drug again. I'm like, I think these were all coincidence. She, you know, is not comfortable with how it's affecting me, but I think I'll probably switch to like Mounjaro or something after. I even text my doctor the following Monday. I actually think I still have the text. And I was like, I changed my mind. I don't want to go off it. I already gained 4 pounds back. Ugh. Can I have that drug back that was literally killing me? You know, this is why I'm not a good role model. Role model, yes. Role model, no. Anyway, about 2 weeks after my last injection, the diarrhea started to resolve. It is now fully resolved. Thank you. The stomach pains lingered a little while longer, but they are completely gone now. I'm sleeping better. The struggle, it's still a struggle. Sleep will be a struggle for me, probably indefinitely, but it's so much better than it was. I could make a video in and of itself about Ozempic anxiety. There's so much to unpack. And guys, this actually doesn't even cover all of the random little symptoms I was having that I wasn't realizing was the drug. The general feeling of being unwell and inflamed, waking up sore, and feeling instantly older, like that happened, and I just again, kind of was like, maybe it's the drug. And I was like, nah, it's not. I would wake up in the middle of the night with horrible pain in both elbows, and every single time I would be like, oh, I was sleeping weird. Random bouts of dizziness, like weekly serious bouts of dizziness where I was like, oh, I guess I'm a little dehydrated today. Yeah, maybe you're a little dehydrated. A little bit. You know, because all the water in your body is exiting via your colon.
Frozen peas on there.
Just random side effects that I wasn't even aware of. And there's even more side effects that I didn't even experience because I didn't experience any significant weight loss. So there's a huge thing going around the internet now called Ozempic face that I keep seeing. Dodged a bullet there, I suppose. I don't know. And again, I know that this video is probably going to come across that I am anti Ozempic or that I'm shaming the drug or those who take it. It's truly and honestly not my intention. I feel like if the drug works for you and you don't have side effects like this, you know who you are and none of this would apply to you. It really seems like this is a miracle drug for certain people. My goal here is to empathize with anybody else that it didn't work for and to let you know that you're not alone, because the disappointment level that this drug did not work is next level bad. So I empathize, but I also want to warn some of you who are considering the drug. Like maybe you're on the fence like I was, and I'm not seeing a ton of people talking about the fact that it may not all be sunshine and roses for you personally. My ultimate advice, I guess, if you are someone who ends up trying this drug is to trust your gut and know, you know deep down, if you didn't have a symptom before and it arose after you started the drug, don't be blinded by emotions, you know, think with your frontal lobe and not your emotions. Don't be like me. Don't poop your pants.
Stop pooping.
All right, I feel like that was very long-winded. Appreciate you hearing me out. If you stuck around, I feel kind of good getting all that out. It's been very, very bottled up inside here. Very curious if any of you have similar experience, or I'm curious about all of your experiences with Ozempic. If you're comfortable, let me know in the comments down below. I'll be hanging out in the VIP lounge, meaning the comment section, to talk about it. Thanks again for listening. I love you, friends. Stay safe and stay hydrated. And thank you again, Scentbird, for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget, use my code JaimeFrench2 at checkout to save 55% off your first order. And I'll see you next time. My colitis also went in the colitis. Why am I saying my? It's my colitis.